Hi, and welcome back. This is day 2 of the 3 Keys to Overcoming Emotional Eating series. In these teachings, I'm sharing the 3 most important topics for those of you ready to end emotional eating, binge eating, overeating, and chronic dieting. In the last video, we discussed the fact that much of your behavior with food is simply due to your brilliant, efficiency-seeking brain, which automates repeated behaviors that bring reward. Right? You've turned to food enough times now that your brain now says, oh, when we're in that particular situation, or whenever we don't want to feel those feelings, don't think about it, just go eat. Got it. No thought or effort needs to be wasted deciding what to do. Today we're going to talk about trauma, what it is, its effect on your nervous system, and the impact it has on your relationship with food. Because when you understand this, you realize, what's going on. Traditionally, we've been taught that trauma is something that we experience with catastrophic events like living in a war zone, sexual or physical abuse, emotional abuse. And while trauma can be those experiences, it's certainly not limited to these types of events. Both the sources and consequences of trauma are wide-ranging and often hidden from our own awareness. Now, most of us have been traumatized, not only victims of abuse or soldiers. In fact, a recent article in Psychology Today estimated that over 90% of adults in the U.S. have experienced a traumatic event at least once in their lives. Right? I've heard it said often that trauma is not what happens to us, but what happens within us. The most simple definition I can give you is that trauma is something that overwhelms the nervous system of the individual beyond its capacity. Trauma is also not one thing. Events and experiences can build over time. It's the way we process or metabolize life's events, right, that determine whether they linger as unprocessed material, causing ongoing change in the nervous system, or whether they're taken care of in the moment. And that's why the same two people can experience the exact same thing and emerge very differently, right? One traumatized and the other completely unaffected. It's also why from the outside, we can never decide what registers as a trauma for someone else. Now, these traumas have an indelible impact on our nervous systems, not only in the moment of the traumatic experience, but going forward as well. Even after an event or experience passes, the trauma often remains stuck in our nervous systems and it changes us forever. The nervous system of a person who's experienced trauma is often dysregulated. They may be a highly functioning individual in many areas of life, but then they may struggle in other areas. They may cling to certain coping mechanisms in order to get through life. And one of the most common coping mechanisms is food. Now, we don't have time to dive too deeply into the science of how past traumas are related to undesired patterns with food and other coping mechanisms, but as a high-level overview, I'll just summarize it in a few major points. Number 1, most of us have experienced trauma. Number 2, this trauma has altered your nervous system by creating a state of dysregulation. Many of us live in constant state of survival, and we don't even know it because we've normalized to it. We don't know any different anymore. Number 3, living with a dysregulated nervous system affects every area of your life, including your ability to navigate emotions and life in general, which causes a more exaggerated need for coping mechanisms, such as food. Simply put, a person who has a dysregulated nervous system is going to feel triggered more often than a person who has a regulated nervous system. There'll be many more situations for the person with a dysregulated system when they feel like they need something to help them cope. Number 4, being dysregulated means that you're operating from your survival brain as opposed to your more resourceful prefrontal cortex. Survival brain is concerned about the quickest, easiest way to survive the next 2 minutes. It's not concerned about long-term goals. It does not have access to your creativity and problem-solving capabilities. It's not concerned with how am I going to feel in an hour or even in 30 minutes if I eat this food, right? It wants to get you out of your discomfort now. So this means that impulse control is compromised. Emotions feel more intense than usual. Self-soothing, connecting with others is often very difficult. And number 5, Efforts to be mindful about food choices, moving your body, preparing food, etc., is going to feel even more overwhelming when you're living in survival mode. So from just this really brief summary, you can see how relevant a person's past experiences and their nervous system is to their relationship with food. And then the second key to overcoming emotional eating is rewiring your nervous system so that you're no longer living and operating from your survival system, but from your prefrontal cortex or your higher brain. This is the version of you that has access to your long-term goals, your good ideas, and your problem solving. It's your higher brain that can recognize that you're feeling dysregulated, help you use your effective tools to shift back to your sense of calm and safety. Healing past traumas and learning to work with your nervous system through practices such as somatic experiencing is the second key to overcoming emotional eating. Much of the time, emotional eating is the result of an activated nervous system. And eating is the fastest, easiest way for us to come back to a place of calm aliveness. But when you have the tools to see what's happening and regulate your system without the use of food, you don't even think about using food when you're triggered. That's freedom. When I tell people they can get to a point where they won't even think about food unless they're hungry, they can't imagine it. But when you have the tools that work so much better than the food and don't lead to shame, digestive issues, and extra weight, you want to use your tools instead. At that point, it's not a matter of controlling yourself. It's a matter of free, conscious choice. So you're probably wondering, what are these tools, right? Now, even though we go into many tools in the Freedom from Emotional Eating 16-week course, there is a simple exercise we can do together today to give you an idea of what somatic experiencing is, how you can integrate it into your life, and help you calm your nervous system when you use it. Some that have been with me or participated in something, one of the somatic experiencing exercises will recognize this exercise. It's the VU. And it works to calm your nervous system because it vibrates the vagus nerve, which is a cranial nerve that runs from your brainstem all the way down into your pelvic region. It's largely responsible for the regulation of your nervous system. Now, you can do this anytime, but especially when you feel the urge to emotionally eat. And the earlier you use it in the process when you first start to trigger it, the more effective it will be. So we're going to do the VU now. And, I really wish that we could dive more into somatic experiencing and how it works and how it's effective for regulating your nervous system and thereby giving you back your power and emotional eating experience. But this is something that I do teach extensively about in the 16-week course. So I'm going to speak a little bit more about that course tomorrow, but just know that there are so many effective tools that not only help you avoid using food to cope with life, but also help heal your nervous system. And it is possible to heal from trauma, regain yourself, and thrive. Now, as I mentioned a couple of times, I am going to have some integration sessions so that you can come and learn how to take this information and put it into your life in a more concrete way. So look out for those in your emails. But before we leave, I want to give you the example. I want to do the VU with you. And I also want to invite you for your integration work is to really start to notice where your nervous system is throughout the day. Challenge yourself to do at least 3 check-ins each day and 3 VUs. Consider rating where you are before and then again after the exercise. Keep in mind you can always do several VUs in a row, right? And this is just one of the many, many ways that you can start working with your nervous system and open yourself up to healing. So with that in mind, let's get ourselves comfortable. And maybe, I like to start my feet flat on the floor, feeling the earth pushing up against my feet, supporting me and giving me that grounded feeling. The VU is very, very simple. We're going to take a couple of nice cleansing breaths. And then on the 3rd breath, when we breathe out, we're going to hum the VU sound. And what this does, again, is stimulate or vibrate that vagus nerve that is such a big player in your nervous system. And by doing so, hopefully return and bring yourself a more of a sense of calm and safe. Okay, doesn't necessarily mean that will be everyone's experience. And somatic experiencing definitely is a very experiential experience for people. So try this on, right? Do your check-ins and do the VU in those 3 times each day, and be a scientist and notice what goes on in your body. What do you notice when you bring this in? So with our feet flat on the floor, feeling grounded, we'll just take a couple of normal breaths. And on the 3rd breath, we'll exhale, letting the air come from our belly, vibrate up through our middle section and up through our neck, and make that beautiful VU sound. And one more breath. And now the VU. Now your VU may be shorter, it may be longer, it may be higher, it may be deeper. None of that matters. What we're trying to do again is vibrate that nerve and just bring a sense of calm aliveness into the body. This may be something that you experience a big change right away, and it might be something that you need to grow into and get used to. Whatever your experience is, I congratulate you on being here, to listening to the understandings of how your nervous system is related to your struggles with food, and how there are tools that you can start working with in order to support yourself and hopefully over time create that sense of calm and safety that you're currently asking food to create for you. I'm so happy you're here, and I really look forward to tomorrow's topic, which is learning to ride the waves of your emotions. I look forward to sharing that information with you on the next video.